All right, just waiting for a few people to join me here. Hope you're doing well tonight. Hoping some people will drop into the stream. Hello, hello. All right, let's get started. If you could smash that like button, I'd appreciate it. Welcome to the Daily Faded. I'm Hetz, and this is where we get faded daily and talk about politics and news. Which means smoking some weed and talking about coronavirus, because that is almost all of the news. I totally agree. God demon. In fact, since you bring it up that Joe Biden's sexual assault allegations are being covered up, I did see that Yahoo News was covering it this evening. So that's kind of mainstream media, almost. At least they're very mainstream at Yahoo News. But, I did a video earlier today that you may have seen about the sexual assault allegations against Joe Biden. And that's my most successful video since I started this YouTube channel 5 weeks ago, because the MAGA crowd got a hold of it and retweeted it about 100 times, and the videos got about 700 views. So I had my best day, but it was all because of MAGA people. But I don't really give a damn. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, maybe. Anyway, welcome again, and thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching. We're doing this all in solidarity, staying at home in solidarity, and want to hang out with people in solidarity. I want to just, off the top, express gratitude for all the workers, doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals, grocery clerks, grocery stockers, pharmacy workers, the city workers, buses and subways and all of that, who are out there in the middle of this fighting for us. And I think it's just important for us to keep them in our minds. They're putting themselves at great risk. United States is now the epicenter of the global coronavirus pandemic. We now have more cases than any other country in the world. You probably heard that already. Don't start, Ludwig. I'm going to get to the coronavirus news in just a second. I have one piece of non-coronavirus news I'm going to talk about a little bit later, which is the sexual assault allegations against Joe Biden, But there was one other, literally everything that I put in my notes for tonight's live stream is about coronavirus, Trump, stuff like that. But there was one other story in the news that was just a 2-sentence story in Reuters that you may have missed. You may have heard about it. I don't know. The State Department is offering a reward of up to $15 million for Nicolas Maduro, the rightful elected president of Venezuela. And this comes as the Justice Department announces charges against Maduro of narco-terrorism. I don't really know what that means. I have no idea if Nicolas Maduro is a narco-terrorist. I've certainly never heard of anything to indicate that he is, other than propaganda from the Obama and Trump administrations. But, the thing about Hugo Chavez, his predecessor, is that he was a socialist, not that he was a drug dealer. So count me as doubtful about these charges against Nicolas Maduro. It sounds like an excuse to ratchet things up against Venezuela again. Maybe this is something that they were planning, and now coronavirus has come along and screwed it up. Maybe they were planning an Operation Just Cause, like when we went into Panama to take out Manuel Noriega, even though he had been a CIA asset. I don't know what it is. I think it's bad news. But I'm sure it's a story that's going to develop in the future. So, according to NCOVE 2019.live, as of 6:30 p.m. tonight, please toke or drink with me, because you need a drink or a toke at a time like this. Worldwide, this is as of 6:30 p.m. Worldwide, there are 534,375 confirmed cases, which is up 8% from yesterday. 24,072 deaths, which is up over 11% from yesterday. I have to try to remind myself that those are not numbers; those are lives. In the U.S., we have 82,327 confirmed cases, which is up over 25% from yesterday, and 1,305 deaths, which is up over 25% from yesterday. It's bad. It's bad. And there are parts of the country now that are coming alive with this virus, like New Orleans. The hospitals in New Orleans are apparently as bad or worse from a standpoint of occupancy as New York. So, and in New York today, they had refrigerated freezer trucks outside the hospitals to hold the bodies because the morgue was going to be overwhelmed. There were over 3.2 million unemployment claims. This is weekly data. So in a week, over 3.2 million unemployment claims. That's the largest in U.S. history. That is would be indicative that this quarter will be economically worse than the entire 2008 recession. So Trump wants you to think that we can go back to business as usual and that will pick up the economy, but that's not true, because all it will do is pick up the disease, and people will still stay home, and people will still not go to restaurants, and that won't work. According to a leaked FEMA briefing, every ICU bed in New York City will be full by tomorrow. And I did not see Eric Garcetti's evening press conference tonight, which I have been watching every evening. But I did see that he said we are 6 to 12 days behind New York here in Los Angeles. So that's scary. One thing that's a little strange. A week ago, we were told that Walmart and Target were going to be donating their parking lots for drive-through test centers. Not a single story about drive-through test centers at Targets or Walmarts yet. So that's kind of just an interesting thing. Dr. Fauci did not speak while Trump was speaking. He spoke after Trump left today at the press conference, but he was in a CNN town hall, and I didn't have a chance to watch the town hall, but I did see a quote from it where he said that the timeline of action will be determined by the virus, not by people, not by anything else. So he clearly has a different playbook than Trump. And Who knows what Trump is doing? Who knows if he actually thinks we can be reopened by Easter, as he likes to say. NBC6 in Florida reports 2 poll workers who worked at several voting locations in Broward County, Florida, have tested positive for the novel coronavirus, election officials said Thursday. So, you may remember that Joe Biden and his spokespeople and Tom Perez all said that it was safe to go out and vote in the last primaries. 2 poll workers in Florida got exposed to the virus and contracted the virus. How many people did they expose to it? How many people caught the virus at polling locations in Florida? Who infected them? How many people were infected? Florida had 507 new cases today, up 25%. How much of that increase is from people who caught it at a polling place or caught it from someone who caught it at a polling place? There's a good chance that a lot of them are. Illinois had 673 new cases today, up 36%. How many of them were infected at a polling place or infected by someone who got infected at a polling place? Same question for Arizona, which had 107 new cases today and was up 26%. It was not the right thing to hold the primary, the last day of primary voting, when Ohio rightly canceled it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Senate bill some more. We talked about it at length last night. I just think it's important to. I think it's important to really. I've been thinking about it a lot, and to really remember that Senate bill is class warfare. They held aid to people hostage for over $4 trillion to go to corporate America. That's the definition of class warfare. All you middle class people and poor people, we'll give you something if we all get paid. I mean, it's kleptocracy. The corporate bailout money is going to be managed by Steve Mnuchin. Mnuchin ran One West Bank, which foreclosed a lot of homes here in California, and many thought that Kamala Harris should have brought charges against Steve Mnuchin. Interestingly enough, she was the only Democrat he's ever donated to a political donation. He evicted grannies over cents, like literally bills that were less than $1, if I remember correctly. Kicked them out of their homes over nothing. We're going to trust this man with dispersing $4 trillion to the private sector. And these companies will be able to hold on to that cash and use that cash to leverage and buy distressed companies. The ones who didn't get the handouts because Steve Mnuchin didn't like them. How many potential Trump donors are going to get bailout money? Or how many people who've already donated to Trump are going to get bailout money? Or how many people are going to donate to Trump after they get bailout money? This bill does not force the production of masks or ventilators or personal protective equipment. They should have forced his hand and forced the invoking of the Defense Production Act. Also, there's no help for the Postal Service in the bill, which is bleeding money because they suffer from the bad economy just like everyone else. That's not really a surprise because Republicans hate the post office. So they'd be perfectly happy to do away with it altogether. One good thing in the bill that I didn't mention last night is that the oil industry is not getting anything. So that's good. And I talked a little bit about Bernie last night, but he really got the unemployment expansion for gig workers and for tipped workers and for self-employed people. He he held a threat to the Republicans of introducing an amendment to have much stricter oversight over the corporate bailout money, and they folded. So for all those people who like to say that Bernie Sanders never gets anything done, they are empirically wrong. There was a Politico article that I wanted to mention about coronavirus funds and American Indian communities. There was $40 million approved for American Indian communities in one of the previous coronavirus bills. But the Trump administration has held up the aid from the IHS, the Indian Health Services, and they're still arguing with them over what form the aid is going to take. Meanwhile, the federally run IHS hospitals and health centers are short on beds and ventilators, and some of the frontline centers have only received 12 kits to test people with. Cases among American Indians are rising, with the Navajo Nation reporting 14 cases and the Cherokee Nation reporting the first death in Oklahoma of a Cherokee citizen who passed away a day after testing positive. Which also begs the question, if it's a day after she tested positive, she must have already been very sick. And how many people died from the flu who didn't get tested for coronavirus? How many people died from pneumonia who didn't get tested for coronavirus? Anyway, this thing with IHS is another example of how our government treats vulnerable communities, and another example of the settler colonialism that has characterized the entire history of our country, and treating American Indians, which I think is what they prefer to be called, Native Americans, treating them with respect, and making the money that goes to their health centers as urgent as everybody else's. They need the money. They need it now. And with every misstep like this, people will die as a result. There was a ProPublica article. Internal emails show how chaos at the CDC slowed the early response to coronavirus. I won't go into too much detail about this, but the emails that they found. Yeah, you're right, God Demon. You would expect to hear about the 25th Amendment, but he's surrounded by people who've drunk the Trump Kool-Aid. Only the cabinet can do the 25th Amendment, and I don't see half of this cabinet convening with Vice President Pence, who maybe would do it for his own ambition. But I don't think you'd get half of this cabinet to do that. I don't know what's wrong with these people. Anyway, the CDC completely fumbled its communication with public health officials. Like, they gave conflicting instructions to people at LAX about who to screen for coronavirus. At one point, they told them not to screen people coming in private planes. And in the email, it literally said, the rich people, something like that. For much of February, the CDC kept a very tight control on who was eligible for testing. And that probably means a lot of people who should have been tested did not get tested. Anyway, just more evidence of how this is being bungled. And look, some of that stuff might have happened under a different president as well. there are inefficiencies in government. So, but this level of mishandling, this level of ineptitude is shocking, even with what we've known about Trump all this time. So the Trump press conference, he comes out and he smiles and he says it's a beautiful day. And he talks about how he likes the press room so empty. Maybe they should keep it that way. And he said it's going to end up better than ever. That was his opening. His opening. He talked about a phone call with the G20 leaders. He always gets this stat incorrect. He says that the virus is in 150 countries now. It's in 190 of 195 countries now. So I don't know where he's getting his information, but that's from that NCOV Live resource that I'm using, which I think is a very good resource. And then he talked about sharing information with foreign leaders, and then he started randomly talking about Tom Brady. Someone said we need Tom Brady to take care of us. Now, I'm a Patriots fan, and I'm not particularly happy with Tom Brady right now. But I do like Tom Brady, even if he had a MAGA hat in his locker. But we don't need Tom Brady. We don't need Tom Brady. We need Martin Sheen. No, we need it'll come to me. He bragged about the Senate bill insufferably. He talked about healthcare workers, and he said, and some of them are getting sick, and some of them are getting better, and some of them are not, and so on and so forth, like so callously, just dismissive of human life. He lied again, saying that we are using the Defense Production Act. It's just a lie. We're not using it at all. He went through the numbers again, as he likes to do, and talked about how we've sent out 9 million N95 masks. And of course, this is just him speaking, and there's no one to question him immediately when he says these things. We need 300 million masks. So the fact that they've shipped 9 million is not necessarily an indicator that they're doing a good job, but Trump portrays it as they're doing a good job. He says they shipped 6,000 ventilators. Oh my God, isn't that amazing? No one can believe how many ventilators we shipped, except for the fact that if all of those went to New York, then New York would still need 24,000 more ventilators. So he says these things out of context, and he needs to be fact-checked immediately. He lied about testing again. Kathy Griffin is in an LA hospital on a ventilator or a respirator and can't get tested. I saw that on Twitter today. Hopefully, I don't want her to be sick, but hopefully that wasn't fake. But I'm sure Trump wouldn't care about her, given that she once joked about decapitating him, if you remember that. So the Navy ship Comfort, is supposedly leaving for New York on Saturday to arrive in New York City Harbor by Monday. Trump was talking about how beautiful it is again. And then he made some weird thing about how he's going to go down to Virginia to wave goodbye and see it off, and they should all go with him. Does he not know there's a pandemic on? Does he not know he's not supposed to leave the house? That no one else is supposed to leave the house? If they really go do that photo op, that is the stupidest thing. Stupidest thing. I'm tired of talking about how stupid Trump is every night. I don't know why I do this. Oh boy. Glutton for punishment, I guess. A lot of progress has been made. We will vanquish the virus. We've got to get back to work. Our people want to work. We're going to be talking dates soon. You know, he says he's hearing it loud and clear from everyone he talks to that people want to get back to work. Who the fuck is he talking to? I don't know anyone who wants to get back to work. All I know is people who want the fucking pandemic to be over. And it's only just starting. Jesus Christ. Is this what it was like during World War II in Great Britain? My nerves are shot. He lied about testing. We're doing tremendous in testing. He was asked about the new unemployment number, and he said, well, that was expected, but we're doing great. It's okay. And it's not what was expected. What was forecasted was 1.6 million unemployed, and it was 3.3 or 3.2. So, you know, again, he's just lying. He was asked about 3% of restaurants nationwide have gone out of business for good, and another 11% are expected to go out of business for good in the next month. And then he talked about how hard the restaurant industry is. And don't worry, you know, some will go out of business, but there will be restaurants. There will be new people who will open restaurants. Again, callously dismissing the people who've lost their businesses, their life's work, all of their employees. And again, he keeps saying, no one thought a thing like this could ever happen. And it's like, dude, there's so many people who wrote books about exactly this thing happening. The Obama administration gave them a report that said all of the things that need to be done in case of a pandemic and to prepare for a pandemic, and it was based on the experiences with the Ebola outbreak. Ben Dixon played today on his podcast Bernie Sanders talking about a pandemic in 2005 with Dennis Kucinich, where he's saying we have to prepare for the pandemic, and when it happens, there will be an economic collapse, and we have to take care of the working people, not just the corporations. That's the thing about Bernie, is there's always video of him saying the right thing. Unlike Joe Biden, where there's always video of him saying the wrong thing. Oh, and then there's this idiot reporter from one of the right-wing networks, OANN or Breitbart or something like that, who says to Trump, pardon me, yawning, the Dow closed up 4,000 points today. With that and the Senate bill passing, do you think we've gotten past the economic uncertainty? Why would you even ask that question? Okay, let's just do the thought exercise. You ask that question because you want to put forward propaganda that the economy is going to be okay. But if you have a brain, you know that the market's going to continue to go down after it has just gone up for one day. It's not going to start climbing back up again magically. There are forces at work that are going to continue to drive it down. So to say the economic uncertainty is past, in a day or 2 days at most, you're going to be proven wrong again. So when there's more bad economic data. So it's beyond stupid. It's just beyond stupid. And then Trump leaves the press conference now before the doctors talk so that he's not there when they contradict him. Now, by contrast, I saw some of Bill de Blasio's press conference today, and he was incredibly humane, compassionate, empathetic, completely different, a real person. So I did this video about the accusation by Tara Reid that she was sexually assaulted by Joe Biden in 1993. I did a short video about that today, and it's gotten a ton of views. 632, it says here, but I saw over 700 on my YouTube studio readout. And it's mostly been retweeted by MAGA people. I didn't really make it for MAGA people. I made it for people who care about the Democratic primary and for people who care about sexual assault allegations against public figures. I made the video because I believe Tara Reid, and she's the victim, and she deserves to be heard, just like all victims deserve to be heard. When Lucy Flores went public with her harassment complaint about Joe Biden from the political rally where he sniffed her hair or whatever he did, Tara Reid came out and said that he had done similar things to her. And she got called a Russian asset by members of the mainstream media and former members of the Obama administration. So she was not willing to tell the rest of her story at that time. She didn't want to tell it when Joe Biden was on the ticket with Barack Obama in 2008 because she was a mother and she didn't want to ruin her family's life. She had kids at home. She was also doxxed last year. So you should read the article in The Intercept by Ryan Grimm about this. She's one of 8 women who have accused Biden of inappropriate behavior, but I do think she's the only one to accuse him of sexual assault. When she decided that she had more to say, I think this past January, she went to Time's Up, which is the organization that has a legal defense fund to help women speak out against men in power who have done stuff like this. And they reviewed her case and they said they believed her, but that they could not help her because they're a nonprofit and they couldn't be involved in targeting someone who's running for federal office, which is a standard that would mean that they could not use their legal defense fund to help anyone who's accusing anyone running for any federal office, which would include all of the Senate and all of Congress and everyone running for president. So all of that class of man, by their logic, cannot be accused. Their accusers cannot be heard. Coincidentally, their PR firm is run by a woman named Anita Dunn, who is literally the top campaign advisor to Joe Biden. Other lawyers have stated that Time's Up rationale for why they would not help Tara Reid was off, that there was no legal justification for it. So Tara Reid spoke to Katie Halper on her podcast yesterday and was on Rising with Crystal Ball and Sagar and Jetty today. And she told her story. I'm not going to go into the details of the story. You can listen to Katie Halper's podcast or watch the video on Rising if you want to hear the details of the story. They are graphic details. I'm not afraid of graphic details, but I'm just not sure it's my place to talk about that when you can go to the actual source for it. I do think it's worth hearing her out. And even though it can be uncomfortable, it's worth hearing her with the graphic details. And what she describes is sexual assault. So far, and goddamn it, I have this in my notes. I was going to say it. I have not yet seen any coverage on CNN or MSNBC about this. I suspect Fox will be covering it tonight. You know, we've been told to believe women all along. We believe Trump's accusers. We believe Weinstein's accusers. We believed Al Franken's accusers. we believed Christine Blasey Ford. And now we have this question of, will we believe Tara Reade? And more importantly, will the leaders in the Democratic Party, will they believe Tara Reade? Will they be consistent? Or will they go with political expediency and believe Joe Biden, who will probably say nothing about it? Time will tell. Peace out. Thank you guys for watching. I love you. And I will see you on Monday night.